I'm going to be way down.
Well, can you raise it? Hang on, wait. Raise it up.
There we go.
There we go.
That's better.
Let me make sure our audio is on. Need to...
Hello.
Hey, I'm Evan's dad.
Hey, I'm Miss Sprayberry.
Hi, I'm Marty Higdon.
Hello.
We're going to be getting started in just a second. I'm pulling up our presentation for tonight. So just a second. Hey, Noah. Hey, Link. Hey, Cassie.
You're nothing.
I did that about 3 nights ago.
All right, guys. Hey, we are just waiting, giving people a few minutes to finish logging on. I know there's a few that said they would log in. They're not on quite yet. So we'll get started in just a second, but we are going to be going over our presentation that we have for you. I don't think it will last the full hour, but you know, if you have any questions to ask, you can at the end ask any questions that you have. So I think the presentation will last about 20 or 25 minutes, and then we'll just have room for questions at the end. But we'll get started in just a few minutes.
Do you want them to put their name in the chat?
The first thing to do is the office asked us to, if you will go to the chat box at the bottom with the speech bubble, if you will click on that and just type your name and your child's name. That way you'll get a prize for your attendance tonight. So you can go ahead and type that in if you can.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you're unmuted or muted. When I start the presentation, I'll mute everyone.
Spider-Man background.
Yeah, Link, I like that Spider-Man background.
So,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you pick it out?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
all right, I may be illiterate here when it comes to all this, but I can't figure this thing out.
You want me to type it for you?
Yeah, please. Now I got to figure out where you went to. Aha, I see somebody.
Is that right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, it's about 5 after, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to be sharing my screen, and the first thing we're going to do is watch a 4-minute video about Title I. Our school is a Title I school, and Miss Gilstrap and Sarah McCloskey will be explaining a little bit about that and what that means, and then we'll go into first grade information and those folders. So I'm going to share my screen. So everyone should be able to see the PowerPoint. I'm going to make it full screen, so I won't be able to see you as much. So I am going to, I better mute everyone. Let's see, I'll do that first. Just a second. It's always better if I do this right at the beginning. Just make it easier for everybody.
Yeah,
Go
but still,
Zoom.
You're not there.
Mute all.
Oh, there you go.
Miss Turner. No.
Okay. That should be good. Okay, can you give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me? Yay, okay, good. All right, so we are here for our virtual data night. I wish it was in person, but we are here in virtual. Thank you for attending. The first thing we'll do is, of course, type your name and your child's name into the comment box. This is to track attendance. The second item on our agenda is our video for Title I information. And third thing will be the presentation. We'll go over data, goals, resources, and general information. Last thing, we'll ask any questions that you have. All right. So this is the video.
Good evening, Rock Spring Rocket families. We are excited that you are joining us tonight. Good evening, Rock Spring Rocket families. We are excited that you are joining us tonight for our Title I night and a data night. So my name is Candy Gilstrap. I'm the principal here.
I'm Sarah McCloskey, the Family Engagement Coordinator.
So again, we are so glad that you are here, and we wanted to take just a minute to talk to you about Rock Spring Elementary being a Title I school. We are a Title I school, which means that we receive federal funding to support our goals here. And this year we are targeting reading, working on comprehension, math, working on facts, multiplication facts, addition facts, subtraction facts. And then we are working on writing as well, implementing, integrating science and social studies into writing. So those are our three goals that we have for this coming year. We had them for last year, but we're rolling them over for this year. Since we had to end our school year a little bit early, we kept the same goals to make sure that we want to meet those goals before we create new ones. So those are our three goals that we are working on this year. Again, we do receive federal money, and that federal money goes for different things around the school. We have purchased a lot of technology with that money. Most of the kids in 2nd through 5th grade are one-to-one with a Chromebook. We are working for kindergarten and 1st to become one-to-one with a Chromebook. So that's what some of our money will go for this year. It also helps to fund a teacher for our reading lab, which is one of our connections. We saw the need to add a double dose of reading. So that's when we created the reading lab, and Ms. Clark does a fabulous job in there doing engaging activities for every grade level. And then we also use some of our federal money to support our family engagement coordinator. So that's a little bit about Title I and how we use our money, and then our goals for this coming year. So let's switch over to Sarah, and she's going to tell you a little bit about family engagement.
All right, so family engagement basically is my job to keep you as involved as possible with your child's education. Things look a little bit different this year with being virtual, but know that we are trying everything possible to get things back to normal. But until then, we're going to have virtual events for you. Like tonight, we're going to have data night. Next week, we're going to have another data night for different grade levels. And we're also going to try to do a virtual, we used to call it lunch and learn, but now that we don't get to do the lunch portion, it'll be a learn portion, and it'll be virtual as well. And we'll post dates about that. Another thing we do is reading with rockets. Last year we did it kind of Monday through Friday, but we're going to switch it up a little bit this year. So if you're interested in reading for our rockets, if you'll get with me and we'll record for you. Like I said, we're doing everything in our power to make sure that you guys can come back to school, but until we can do that safely, we'll be seeing you online.
That's right. And so our Reading with Rockets, if you haven't checked out our Facebook page, please go onto Facebook and like it, RSE, Rock Spring Elementary. And we also have a PTO page on there as well, RSE, Rock Spring Elementary PTO. So please just make sure to like both of our pages. And we're excited about this year and planning some events. Like Sarah said, we are hoping everything gets back to a normal schedule. But right now, this is our new normal, and virtual is how we can still communicate. If you need to talk to either one of us about anything, you can contact us at the school. We'll be happy to help. So again, thank you for being here for our Title I Data Night and playing an important role in your child's education. Go Rockets!
All right. There we go. All right, so we'll get started a little bit on first grade goals. We'll start with reading. So I included this paper in your child's data folder, and you can look on there and see the August and September column. I have it in red here to show you that we have the goal of DRA. It's the first one on the screen there. That's just their reading level. It's like the alphabet, A all the way to Z. So when they come to first grade, their goal is to be on a C, and we'll be going over our class data on that. A goal when they come to first grade is to identify all upper and lowercase letters, 52 out of 52, and to name all the letters sounds as well. And then list 1 should be accomplished, August through September. They should be currently working on list 2. I'll just click. Okay, so this is actually our data for the DRA levels in August. So when I first tested the students when they came to school, we had this circled in red that was below grade level levels. So we had 9 students reading on an A level and 4 reading on a B level. So that was a total of 13 that were below grade level coming into first grade. And that was a little bit to be expected just because we did miss so much there at the end last year. And currently, well, in August, we had 10 on grade level when they got to the classroom. So I'll be sending home current levels in November. We do the next round of DRAs in November. But I did want to share that we had definitely over 50% below grade level coming into first grade. So I just wanted to list some tips when we're working on reading and when you're working at home. I do always recommend read every night for 20 minutes. And this is something that may be hard at first, but if they can get into the routine, just somehow with a book for 20 minutes, you can read some to them or they can read to you. Also ask your child questions while they're reading. I always say we ask questions before we read, during reading, and after reading. Multiple readings will also help. This helps build fluency and comprehension. So fluency meaning that's how the homework passages are set up. They read it multiple times, they color in a star each time, and that will build, especially with those sight words that they're having trouble with, like as the more times that they're reading it, the better they're going to have the chance of remembering it. Some tips while reading: lay the books flat on the table. Point at each word with one finger. That's called tracking, and we do that in class. Sound out the words. It's easy just to give them the word that they're struggling with, but have them sound it out. Break up the bigger words into smaller parts. For example, we just learned the sound en says in. So in. They need to break it up, and they may not know the word pen, but if they break it up, they do know en, so they can sound it out that way, and that's a new sound for them. So they're going to start learning a lot of new sounds they did not know in kindergarten, so they can start using that as they're reading. And that's, of course, how they begin to be able to read on higher level text using the phonics that we're learning in class. So whatever phonics sound you're seeing on their homework spelling words, you can encourage them at home to sound that sound out specifically. And I'll talk more about that. Remember to read the endings of words like ed, ing, and then of course some words have s on the end and they can easily forget that. For example, the word words, sometimes they want to just say word, but they need to recognize there's an ending for that. All right, so what is coming next in reading? August through December, we really focus a lot on fiction and those story elements like characters, setting, the main events of the story, what's the problem, what's the solution in the story, and then we focus on character feelings, character traits, what is the beginning, middle, and end of the story, and can you summarize the story you were reading? In your packet, you'll see the hand example, and it's the 5-finger retell we work on. 1, they should be able to tell the setting of a fiction story. 2, they should tell the characters. They should be able to tell any problem that the story had, what important events the story had, and of course the ending. And that is very challenging for them during this time to be able to recall that information and comprehend what they're reading. That's something we run into a lot when we're testing DRA, which is that reading level. So if you're seeing that your child can fluently read a sentence, but they're still not progressing in their level, they may be having trouble with comprehending and telling us what actually happened in that story. And even as adults, I think we struggle with that sometimes, with just recalling what we've read after we've read it. But we're teaching them strategies to use while they're reading so they can work on that. What's coming up in January, the rest through May, we will be working a lot with nonfiction and still reviewing fiction. So they'll be learning a lot about nonfiction text features. They'll be working on comparing fiction and nonfiction, author's purpose, what does the author want us to know, why is the author telling the story, and then the main idea of a text. So we'll be really focused on learning to read August through December, but after Christmas we really start working on reading to learn. So we'll be working on learning to read, but hopefully by after Christmas they're able to read a text and tell me something they gained from that text, not just simply, hey, I read it. We want them to learn something from that story after Christmas. That's where we're looking for them to be. So this is the phonics part, and phonics is one of the most important things. It's when we are teaching them the letter sounds and the letter names. That's what we start with. Then we start with the short vowel CVC words like cat, mat, mug, mud. That's what we're working on right now. And then we've been getting into blends, like in the word frog, FR is a blend, stop, ST is a blend. So we're working a lot with CVC words and blends right now. So when they're reading, if they get to a word that has a vowel in the middle and 2 consonants on the side, like cat or mug, those are words they should be able to sound out. So don't give them those words, have them work for those words. And then if it has a blend, they should be able to start sounding those out. Blends are 2 consonants that blend together. So slip, SL is the blend. And just follow the spelling words that we're sending home, because those are the words they should be able to sound out. We haven't gotten to digraphs yet, but sh, and are all digraphs that are also seen very commonly in their books that they're reading right now. So that's something that we'll be talking about before Christmas. But these vowel patterns, all of the phonics skills and the word families that we're teaching them are they're the essential things that they need to know to be able to read higher level text. So if your child is on an A, B, or C, most likely they're having trouble mastering those CVC words and blends, because without those skills, they're not really going to be able to keep progressing in the DRA level, because they need to know further and further of the skill, more skills to be able to progress in the DRA level. And of course, on this side, I just have all those, it's a long list of sounds that we start learning after Christmas, but the farther along they get with this list, the further their DRA level will move, because as the books get harder, you start to see more of these sounds. Okay, and I'll be sending this list out. You don't have to worry about like writing it down or taking a picture. I'll let you know, but just keep looking at the spelling words, because that's really what's going to show you what they should be able to read right now in first grade. This word stamina, that's meaning that they can sit with a book and read it for 5 minutes. That's their first goal. So building stamina just means they can sit by themselves for an extended period of time and read. And that's something we work on in first grade, because at the beginning it's like a minute, I'm done, you know, and that's because they don't have a lot of confidence and they don't have a lot of skill yet. But as they gain knowledge in reading, they'll want to sit and read more. But that's something you can talk about at home too. Hey, let's sit down for 5 minutes. I'm going to set this timer and let's read your homework passage for 5 minutes. And that's something we work by in the classroom, of setting a timer. But they need to build up some stamina, because of course as they get older they're going to have to sit and read in the upper grades as well. So that's something we start working on in first grade. Sight words, they should be able to read their sight word in 3 to 5 seconds. They do not like that rule. I will be testing them and they're like, oh, no, I know this one. No, I know it. Don't mark it out. And I'm like, oh, well, you have to know it in 3 to 5 seconds. So that's something I wanted to share with you too. If they do not know it in 3 to 5 seconds, they don't know that word yet. They need to master all 175 words. That's 4 lists. Before the end of the school year. So those all 4 lists are included in your folder that we sent home for this night. But I try to keep an updated list. If I'll ask them to, like, hey, do you need another sight word list, or do you not have the one I gave you? And I try to be diligent with that. But if you ever need another list, just let me know. I used to send them every week, but I felt like they were just getting trashed. Like, I didn't want to waste any copies, so I don't send them unless I think they need another one. But sometimes they're on the same list for a month or 2 months, so just feel free to let me know if you ever need another list. Okay, so we are moving on to math. Our math goals, we have an assessment called Key Math, and it assesses a variety of skills. Their goal is to have a 1.0 or higher in August or September. So 1.0 means first grade, 0 month. So like first month of first grade. If your child is on a K.8, that means they are on a kindergarten level, 8th month. So that if they're on a 1.0, that means they're ready to start first grade math-wise. Another goal we have in math is identify and write 30 out of 120 numbers. They can say them usually. Writing them is very different. So I graded these a while back, and they were saying them. The tests where they had to say the words were pretty good, but when they had to write them, it was just a lot different, because they would have them backwards or upside down, or, you know, all kinds of things. So we have to work really hard with them on, one, writing them in order, but also writing them correctly. So our our math data is here. This is for I summarized the key math and the recognition of the numbers through 30 only, and 7 were on grade level. This was August through September, and 13 were not on grade level. So again, we're having over 50% right now not on grade level. So I wanted to share with you what they're going to be learning in math and what we've already learned. So August and September, we really work on reading and writing numbers to 120. That is a skill that we'll be working on all year. We are really just focusing on 0 through 30 right now, because it seems, although that's a kindergarten standard, they really need to work on that standard. So that's what we're working on, just 0 through 30. Of course, at home, you could be challenging your child to write further than that if you feel like that's good for them and they need to be practicing that. If we always encourage, if you can go farther than 30, go for it. And we worked on greater and less than. So is a 30 greater than a 50, and those kind of questions. So October, we worked on graphing and word problems. So Right now we're working on addition word problems, and we'll be moving on to subtraction word problems soon. And that's just simple addition, like 6 and 4. So we're working on the strategies you can use to solve simple addition problems when we do those word problems. I know that sounds crazy to go from working on 0 to 30 and then word problems, but we really want them to start having that foundation of just adding simple numbers and communicating the strategies they need to add those numbers. So November, we're going to work on dimes and pennies. That's always fun for them, and that's something you can get into at home too. And then adding 3 numbers together. January, we'll work on length, measuring length and telling time to the hour and half hour. February and March, we'll be working a lot with place value. How many tens, how many ones does this number have? Determining greater than and less than, using place value to add 2-digit numbers. So we move pretty quickly in first grade with math. The biggest thing is that they need to be catching on to all of the numbers and being able to recognize their numbers from 1 to 120. So if you're wanting to help with math at home, that would be a really good thing for you to do, is to give them flashcards of numbers 100 to 120. And I can give you some if you need some, but can you recognize this number, and how many tens, how many ones does this number have? So that's what they should be thinking like in first grade. March and April, we'll be talking a lot about shapes, 2D and 3D, and also fractions, talking about half and what a fourth means. And then May, we review all of those skills. So some tips in math for you to be working on with them at home: practicing counting from 1 to 120. They do need to be able to read, write, and recognize each number from 1 to 120. Today I had a group and we were working on just recognizing 0 through 20. They were doing a great job, and then we started writing it. So it was just a whole other ball game. It's really hard for them to actually write the number that they just said. So I didn't realize that until I was teaching first grade, that it's very hard for them to actually write down the number sometimes. They can say them, they just can't write them sometimes. Add and subtract household items. So challenge them. If you're cooking something, say, okay, I just used this amount. How many do I have now? And just little simple things you can get them in the conversation with. You can compare objects, sizes, which shirt is longest, or who is shorter in our family, who's the tallest, because we use those words a lot to compare things in our classroom. So that's always good vocabulary for them to have. Greater than and less than. So you can think about how to use that conversation at your home as well. And then place value. So talking a lot about tens and ones at home. So moving on to writing. What's coming next in writing? We've been really working on narrative. We always start with that in first grade in August and September, because we want to know about them. And narrative stories, they get to write about themselves. It could be a fiction story or a nonfiction story, but they get to write about themselves. So as teachers, we get to learn a lot about them through their writing. In October, we like to have fun with our writing in October. We've been working a lot with fantasy and fiction, so spooky stories, I'm sure you've heard about that, and some just fun things. Like we've been working on all kinds of good stuff in October. They really have enjoyed fiction writing this year. It is a little challenging for them to be able to form a fiction or a fantasy story. I thought that would be easier when I first started teaching, but that's one of the harder things for them. So I always tell parents, hey, get a journal for them and let them just write. It can be imaginary stories, a diary. It's good for them to have some sort of time to write, and that can be enjoyable for them too. So in November, we're going to focus a lot on informational writing and how to. We're going to keep the Thanksgiving theme of, how to make a pie, how to make pumpkin pie, I should say, and those kind of things. December, we're going to review what we've learned so far. January, we'll go back to imaginative narratives, where they write an imaginative story, including themselves, so they can be a fictional character. We'll be doing Young Authors Fair, I believe. So that'll be gearing up in January. We'll work on student treasures in February. That's where the students write a classroom book, and then you get the chance to purchase it if you would like. March, we'll work on how-to stories. So that's something you can start gearing them up for, and we'll work on that in November as well. But can you tell me how to? And they can at least list 2 to 3 steps of how to complete a task. That's what they have to put on paper. So how to make a sandwich, how to get dressed in the morning, how to get ready to leave. Those kind of topics they need to work on. They have to be able to use the temporal words first, next, then, and last. So that's pretty easy for them usually. They just have to keep sounding the words out, and we'll get to that in a second. That's anytime usually what holds them back is they know what to say. It's just very hard for them to put it on paper. So we'll talk about that more in a moment. April will work on informational. They always like that, more like writing facts about something that they've read, like a book about penguins. Can you write about penguins? And then May, we just review the topics. So tips in writing. They need to be able to write the word the way that they hear them. So that is hard because when you're helping them with writing, if they're trying to spell school, like the example I have here, they're going to put something more like this because they're going to hear it S-C-U-L, like S-C-U-L. They're more likely to write that than the correct sound because they have not learned these phonics families yet. They have not learned that O says oo, and they have not learned that sometimes is CH sometimes as well. So that is just challenging for them. So until they learn that phonics family, I expect them to spell it like this, and it's correct to me. In first grade, it will be correct because we ask them to write what they hear. For example, pencil. If they don't know how to spell pencil, and most don't right now, then they need to sound it out. Pencil. And if they have this on their paper, pencil, I think that's great. It makes me so happy. They just have to write the sounds that they hear. I get that question a lot because work is coming home and it looks terrible because there's all kinds of words on there. They don't make sense, but they totally make sense to me and it makes sense to them because if they can sound it out, that's great. But if they copy from the board and it's perfectly spelled, it's not going to help them because they can't read those words yet, probably. And they need to be able to read their writing back to you. So if they've written something and they can't read it back, that's a skill we need to work on too. Encourage them to use or to meet their writing goals. So their writing goals right now are to be a smarty speller. That means don't ask me how to spell it. That's not because I don't love them. I do want to help them, but they need to be able to sound out that word. So write each sound that you hear, stretch out the word to make it very long and write every sound you hear. And that's what they're asked to do right now. And that's a little frustrating to them sometimes because they're really just confident. They're just now confident with the sounds. So that's something that's challenging for them. Use punctuation, capital letters at the beginning, use the sight words that they know, and then writing should match the picture. The sight words, so if they know the word the, then they should be able to spell the word the. So if they are knowing these sight words, I encourage them to spell them correctly. But if they don't, we find it in our word wall in our offices. All right, so in your folder, there's a report, and it is for your child, and it is the map testing that we did back, I think in September, but there was a lot of factors going into that test. Please don't be alarmed if your child's score seemed lower than what you would expect. Several factors were at play while taking the test for the first time. They had never used Chromebooks before. They had never taken this test before. They had to use the trackpad on the laptop, and that was brand new to them. So, take it as it is, and they will take the MAPS test again in December and again in May. So by the end of the year, we'll be able to see how far they've grown since the beginning of the school year. And I expect to see a lot of growth through that. So that's just something that was our first one. I did want to include it so you could see what percentile they were in. So take a look over those reports and let me know if you have any questions about that, and I will try to answer that to the best of my ability. Those are new tests for us as well. I had never given it before. It was the first time for us. So we will start taking it, and it should give us good information as teachers because it shares their reading level and where they're at with certain information with math and reading. So I did want to go over the grading scale. For the longest, I didn't know that kindergarten did not give 1, 2, 3, 4 scores. And I always try to go over that because it's new to you. So a 1, if you're seeing 1s on your child's paper, that just means I'm just starting to learn this. I don't understand it yet. Okay. Number 2, if they earn a 2 on their paper, it means I'm beginning to understand this, but I still need some help. So if I help them at my table, or if they could not complete the assignment and needed help from me or Miss Higdon, then we will be putting a 2 on their paper. A 3 means I understand this, I can do it on my own, I don't need any help, and I got it correct. Number 4 means I'm an expert and I can teach someone else to do this. And they always want a 4 because they know that's the highest score, but I don't give them a lot just because we learn information quickly in first grade and then we move on. So I'm not sure that they're an expert yet, even if they're getting them all correct. It's different for them to be able to make like a 100 and a 3 because they got everything correct, but I'm not so sure that they could teach a class on it or teach a friend how to do it. So that's a hard skill in first grade for them to do. If I'm giving them the opportunity to teach someone else, a lot of times it just becomes like, hey, you can have my paper and see it, because it's just hard for them to understand what I'm talking about when I say, okay, you can go help a friend. They just usually want to give them their paper to show them the answers. So a lot of the times they get a 3 because they may not be a total expert on the topic yet. So in the folders that you have, I included their data, their DRA score, their sight words. We just put a check mark if they had list 1 mastered already. They should have list 1 mastered already. If not, definitely be really working on that. List 2 is what you should really be focused on. But if you haven't gotten list 1, definitely be practicing that. They have data, or we listed the data on letter names and letter sounds. They should at this point have mastered that. They should be able to say the name of the letter and the sound 100%. We have their key math score in there. We have their number recognition score and their ability to write it. Under the math part, where it says the number recognition to 30, we had to write a line. So the one on the left was the recognition. Could they tell us the number? The one on the right was if they could write the number. And you'll probably notice that the one where they had to write it is a lot lower than where they had to recognize it. And that's what we talked about. And the map test results are also in there. We have a lot of resources in there for you on how to help your child in reading and math. We put all of the first grade standards in there, and I thought it was cool. I loved the copy that's in there because it has a little picture and a description of the standard. So all of the writing, reading, and math standards that they will be learning at first grade are included in their folder. All 4 lists of sight words are in there, so that way you can be prepared what's coming next. If your child is on list 1, you can go ahead and see what's to come because they may already know some words on the other list too. I did include an example in the folders of the reading level D, what a D level looks like. So that's what they should be able to read coming to first grade, and then a J as well. So the J level it's what they're supposed to be able to read at the end of first grade. So, and not just read it, but also they have to tell about it. You know, how did you connect to the story? What did you read about? Can you retell the story to me? And we included a goal page in there. If you could please return that and fill it out with your child. And you can see it says goal sheet at the top. And that's just a way for you to connect with your child on what they would like to accomplish in first grade, because we share with them their goals. They know what their goals are in reading. They know what they should be trying to do in writing and in math. So talk to them about what their goal is. And if you could send that back to me, and then we will keep up with that at school and have conversations about that too. And then there is a questions page, and you can write and send any question you have about tonight, anything I went over, or anything in general. You can just send it back if you don't want to ask a question that you may have. Here in a second, I'm going to unmute, and we'll ask questions if we have any. But if you don't want to ask it right now, you can just write it down and send it back. Some housekeeping information: wear or bring tennis shoes every day, please. Please sign behavior logs daily and discuss that with your child. If you're seeing a lot of yellow, orange, or red, you need to be discussing that if possible with your child of why they're having to move their color down. And if you're seeing a lot of green, blue, purple, and pink, be excited for them because they're making really good choices. We do eat a snack daily that they need to bring with them. If you would like your child to have a snack, they do need to bring it. Please send water bottles daily, send a jacket. It's starting to get cooler outside. And of course, when we all step outside, they're like, oh, it's too cold to be out here. So I just figured I would mention that. You can definitely start bringing jackets because they get chilly. And sometimes in the classroom, it's a little cold. So you're welcome to send jackets daily. We keep up with those. And then check grades on Power School. I'm about to update Power School, and information was sent home about Power School. So you should have their login, but just let me know if you need anything from me about Power School. But that is where I put their grades in. So I don't grade everything. I just usually take a practice score around the beginning of the unit, and then I take a test grade at the end of the unit. If it's a skill like counting all the way to 120, I'm not going to grade anything like that until closer to the end of the year. So there are some things I don't grade until closer to May, just because I want to give them the entire year to really master that skill. So any questions? And I think that was it. Let me move back over here. Let's see. Well, before we do questions, I just have one more slide at the end, and then I'll move back to questions because I'll just unshare my screen. But I do have a quote for you because I saw it, and I thought this was really good to share with you tonight, because I know in the past I've had parents get really upset about some of their scores and where their child was and maybe a little discouraged. But I saw this quote and I thought it was really nice for tonight to share. It says, popcorn is prepared in the same pot, in the same heat, in the same oil, and yet the kernels do not pop at the same time. Don't compare your child to others. Their time to pop is coming. So your child's in the classroom with all the other students, and you might be getting data that upsets you or you're not super happy about, but their time is coming. Keep working with them. Don't get discouraged. Keep working with them. We work with them as hard as we can. Keep working with them, and their time to pop is coming. I love that quote. But I am going to stop sharing my screen now. If I can find it. Stop share. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Does anybody have a question? I'm not going to unmute everybody because you might want to be muted, but you can, I believe, unmute yourself if you have a question. Does anybody have a question?
Hi, Miss Sprayberry.
Hey, Layla.
Hey, Layla.
Glad to see you.
This is my mom.
I see her. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I got off late, so that's why we were late.
That is
Yeah, want to see the black cat?
No, stop.
I appreciate you for attending. Do you mind to type your name and Layla's name into the chat box to track
Miss
our
Sprayberry?
attendance? Because Layla will get a prize for attending. So if there's not any questions, we're finished here. If you have a question, let me know. You can send in your question page if you don't want to ask it right now. Hey, Easton, I didn't see you. Hey, glad you're here. So, well, everybody.
Oh, that's Sigden. Hi.
I can't find the chat box. Where's it at?
Miss
On
Sprayberry.
the very bottom, there is a word that says chat, and it's the speech bubble. If you can just click that. Okay, the question, are they working on 2 lists, sight words, and a spelling list? Yes. So for sight words, they need to be able to just say the word, not sound those out. That's something I didn't mention. You don't want to sound out the sight words. They just need to memorize those words. But the spelling list, they should be able to sound out those words. For example, this week, run, they should sound out run. So it's 2 different things. Great question. So is there anything else? I want to answer any questions that you have. Of course, you can dojo me or write them to me as well. Miss Higdon and I are always here to answer any of your questions. First grade is challenging. We learn a lot in first grade. We move quickly. So first grade is definitely a big learning year. From a level D all the way to a level J is a huge jump. So it's a hard working year. Students have to be ready and prepared. And I tell them every day, work hard. You have to do your best every day. We say it every day. So, all right. Well, if there's no more questions, you guys are good to go, and I appreciate you all for attending, and the kids will get a prize tomorrow for being here, and I just appreciate everybody for coming. It means a lot to us to see you here supporting your child. It makes us excited. So, but you guys are good. Is there anything else? All right. I see some thumbs up. So you guys have a good evening. Get some rest. I'll see you all tomorrow, friends. I'll end the chat. Bye, guys.
Bye.